The sky cracked open like it had been waiting for this exact moment, and Goku's body rose slowly off the shattered ground of what used to be planet Namek, every muscle locked in a silent scream, while golden scales pushed through his skin like living armor forged from the stars themselves. His eyes, once bright with that wild Saiyan joy, now glowed with an ancient, patient fire that belonged to something far older than any fight he had ever known. Zalama had finally claimed his vessel, and the birth of a dragon god was already rewriting the rules of every universe at once. But none of that fury started with a roar or a final clash. It began quietly, weeks earlier, when a shadow no god had ever seen before forced the Z-Fighters to do the one thing they swore they never would. If your blood is already pumping at the thought of Goku becoming something no Saiyan, no god, and no mortal was ever meant to contain, then hit subscribe right now and turn on that notification bell, because this is the what. If that doesn't just break power levels, it births an entirely new era of Dragon Ball. Stick with me to the end, and you'll witness the exact second a legend becomes something the multiverse will never recover from. It started not with a battle cry echoing across the stars, but with a silence so complete that even the Kais felt their divine hearts stutter in their chests. Far beyond the 12 universes, in a space where time itself forgot how to move forward, something ancient stirred from a slumber older than the first Super Dragon Ball. The entity had no name the mortals could pronounce, yet every god who sensed its approach whispered the same forbidden word: Zalama. The dragon god whose wish-granting power dwarfed even the might of the Omni-King, the being whose very existence was whispered about only in the most sealed chambers of the highest heavens. And now that being was awake, and its attention had turned toward the fragile cluster of realities that housed a certain orange-gi wearing Saiyan. On Earth, the days had grown strangely heavy. Goku trained as he always did, laughing with that pure, boyish energy while trading blows with Vegeta under the warm afternoon sun, sweat flying from their brows in golden arcs. Yet between punches, both warriors felt it, a pressure behind their eyes like someone was watching them from a distance no fighter could close. Bulma's machine started glitching without reason, her capsules misfiring and spitting out distorted versions of everyday objects. Even Beerus, lounging on his floating palace with a half-eaten pudding cup in hand, found himself waking from naps with his fur standing on end, claws instinctively extended toward an enemy that refused to show its face. Wise could only offer a tight smile and say the threads of fate were tangling in ways even he had never seen. Then the first portal tore open above the Capsule Corp courtyard, not the clean circular rifts of time travel or the dramatic tears of the Tournament of Power, but a jagged wound in reality edged with shimmering emerald light that pulsed like a living heartbeat. From its spilled creatures no one recognized, beings with bodies made of condensed starlight and voices that sounded like distant thunder wrapped in ancient poetry. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they drifted downward, their many eyes fixed not on the warriors but on Goku, studying him the way a sculptor studies raw marble before the first strike of the chisel. Vegeta stepped forward first, pride burning hotter than any Super Saiyan transformation, demanding answers in that sharp royal tone that usually sent lesser foes running. The creatures only tilted their heads, and one of them spoke a single sentence that landed like a physical blow. The vessel must be prepared. The dragon god stirs, and only one heart carries the perfect balance of limitless hunger and unbreakable will. Goku scratched the back of his head, grinning awkwardly, asking if this was some new tournament thing, but the smile never quite reached his eyes. Deep down, in the part of him that remembered every loss, every time he had pushed his body past its limits only to watch friends fall, something ancient inside him shifted, like a lock clicking open that had been waiting for this exact key. The battles that followed were fierce yet strangely restrained. These Starlight Guardians tested rather than destroyed, forcing Goku to tap into strengths he rarely needed against street-level threats. He transformed to Super Saiyan Blue almost immediately, the blue aura crackling around him with electric fury, while he dodged lances of pure cosmic energy that left glass-like craters in the ground. Each clash sent shockwaves rolling across the landscape, bending trees and rattling windows miles away, yet the invaders never aimed to kill. They wanted to see how far his spirit could stretch before it snapped or expanded into something greater. Goku felt it in his bones first, a warmth spreading from his chest outward, not the burning rage of a Super Saiyan transformation, but something slower, deeper, like the first rays of a sun that had never existed before. His punches carried more weight than usual, and when he landed a solid hit, the guardian he struck actually bowed its head in something that looked almost like reverence before vanishing back through the rift. Vegeta noticed it too, the way Goku's power signature flickered with traces of something foreign, something that made the Prince of all Saiyans grit his teeth and push himself even harder in their nightly spars, refusing to be left behind by whatever storm was coming. By the time the final guardian fell, dissolving into motes of light that drifted upward like fireflies heading home, the entire Z-Fighter team stood together under a sky that now carried permanent streaks of emerald. Piccolo's antennae twitched constantly, sensing divine energies clashing in dimensions just out of reach. Gohan held Pan a little tighter than usual, his scholar's mind racing through every ancient text he had ever studied, searching for any mention of a dragon god who might demand a living sacrifice. And Goku? He stood there breathing heavily, fists still clenched, but his usual post-fight grin was replaced by a quiet thoughtfulness that looked strange on his face. In that moment, he felt the first real pull, like invisible threads wrapping around his soul, gentle but insistent, drawing him toward a destiny that no amount of training could have prepared him for. Little did any of them know that the real test had not even begun. The Guardians had only been messengers, sent to measure whether the chosen vessel could endure the weight of what was coming. And as the last emerald streak faded from the sky, somewhere far beyond the edge of everything, Zalama opened its eyes fully for the first time in eons and smiled with a patience that could outlast galaxies. The stage was set. The shadow beyond the universes had found its perfect host, and the birth of the dragon god was already whispering its first promises of power that would make every previous legend feel small by comparison. The call came without warning, echoing through every living soul connected to the Dragon Balls across the multiverse. 7 massive orbs, each the size of a small mountain and radiating a light so pure it hurt to look at directly, materialized above the ruins of the battlefield. They were not the familiar Earth Dragon Balls, nor even the Namekian set. These were something older, forged in the heart of creation itself, their surfaces etched with runes that shifted and rearranged whenever anyone tried to read them. The air grew thick with divine energy, pressing down on everyone's shoulders like the weight of every wish ever granted suddenly demanding repayment. Goku stood at the center of it all, his gi torn and stained with dirt and sweat, yet his posture remained straight, that familiar spark of excitement dancing in his dark eyes. The Guardians had left one final message before departing. Only the one they had tested could make the wish that would awaken Zalama fully. Everyone argued against it. Vegeta snarled that this smelled like a trap wrapped in cosmic gift wrapping. Beerus actually looked nervous for once, his tail lashing as he warned that messing with dragon gods was the kind of stupidity even gods regretted. But Goku felt it deep in his gut, that same pull he always felt before a fight he knew he couldn't walk away from, the one that said if he didn't step up, someone else would have to pay the price. He stepped forward, placed his hands on the nearest orb, and spoke the words that would change everything. I wish for the power to protect everyone, no matter what it takes. The Dragon Balls flared to life with a brilliance that bleached the sky white for several long heartbeats. Energy surged through Goku's body like liquid fire mixed with starlight, every cell screaming and singing at the same time. His hair flashed between black and gold, then settled into a radiant new shade, a deep metallic orange that shimmered with emerald undertones. Power flooded his veins, raw and limitless, making his muscles swell, and his aura explode outward in a storm of light that forced even Super Saiyan God Vegeta to shield his eyes. The transformation felt incredible. Goku laughed out loud, the sound booming across the landscape as he tested his new strength with a casual punch that split the clouds for miles and sent a shockwave that rattled distant mountains. He could feel every universe at once, sense the faint threads of fate connecting billions of lives, and knew with absolute certainty that he could shield them all now. The Z-Fighters watched in stunned awe as he levitated effortlessly, his body radiating an aura that made the very concept of fear seem obsolete. Piccolo's eyes widened behind his turban, sensing a Kai signature that dwarfed anything they had faced in the tournament of power. Even Wise allowed himself a rare moment of genuine surprise, murmuring that this level of ascension had not been recorded in any angelic scroll. Vegeta charged first, pride demanding he measure himself against this new Goku immediately. Their fists met in a collision that created a temporary vacuum in the atmosphere, the impact so violent that nearby trees were uprooted and flung into the sky like matchsticks. Goku didn't even need to go full power. He blocked, countered, and matched Vegeta blow for blow with a relaxed smile, his movements carrying a graceful certainty that made the prince's attacks look almost clumsy by comparison. Each exchange sent ripples of energy cascading outward, bending light and distorting the air until the battlefield looked like a painting caught in a heat haze. One by one, the others joined, testing the limits of what Goku had become. Gohan in his ultimate form unleashed a barrage of energy blasts that Goku dispersed with gentle waves of his hand, the beams dissolving into harmless sparks that rained down like celebratory fireworks. Goten and Trunks fused into Gotenks, and through everything they had, their ridiculous attacks met with patient blocks and soft laughter that somehow carried no mockery, only warm encouragement. Even Beerus joined the fray, Hakai energy crackling at his fingertips, yet every destructive sphere Goku met with a palm strike that neutralized the threat without erasing anything around it. The god of destruction actually grinned for a split second, acknowledging that the Saiyan had finally stepped into a realm where destruction and creation balanced on the same edge. As the mock battle reached its fever pitch, Goku floated higher, raising one hand toward the heavens. With a single focused thought, he summoned a protective barrier around the entire planet, a shimmering dome of emerald and gold light that pulsed with the steady rhythm of a living heart. Meteor showers that had been approaching from a distant cosmic event dissolved harmlessly against it. Distant threats from other timelines felt the barrier's presence and turned away, instinctively knowing they would find no opening here. The Z-Fighters lowered their guards one by one, the tension draining from their bodies as they realized the impossible had happened. Goku had become the ultimate guardian, the one being who could finally ensure no one they loved would ever have to sacrifice themselves again. He landed softly in front of his friends, that trademark grin spreading across his face as he rubbed the back of his neck, and said it felt like he could take on the entire multiverse and still have energy left for dinner. The group erupted in cheers and laughter, the kind of relieved celebration that only comes after staring into the abyss and watching it blink first. Vegeta crossed his arms, muttering something about not getting cocky, but even he couldn't hide the flicker of respect in his eyes. Kai watched from the sidelines with tears she quickly wiped away, her heart swelling with a complicated mix of pride and the quiet fear that her husband had once again stepped so far beyond mortal limits that she might never fully reach him again. In that moment everything felt perfect. The shadow had been faced, the wish granted, and the dragon god's vessel stood triumphant, his power a beacon that promised safety across countless worlds. The apparent climax of the legend had arrived, and it tasted sweeter than any victory they had ever known. Goku had done it. He had become the protector they all needed, the bridge between mortal will and divine might. Or so it seemed. The celebration lasted exactly 3 days before the first cracks appeared, not in the sky this time, but in the small, everyday things that no one ever thought to question. Goku woke up on the fourth morning with an unusual stiffness in his shoulders, the kind that no amount of stretching or senzu beans could touch. He brushed it off with a laugh, telling Kai it was probably just the leftover buzz from all that new power surging through him. But when he reached for his morning rice bowl, his fingers trembled for half a second, just long enough for a single grain to slip and roll across the table like it was trying to escape. Kai noticed. She always noticed the tiny things that her husband tried to hide behind that easy smile. By midday, the sky had taken on a permanent faint emerald tint, beautiful at first, like the whole world had been dipped in gentle starlight, yet the color carried a weight that pressed on everyone's chest. Birds flew in tighter formations than usual, their songs shorter and more urgent. The ocean near West City churned with unusual currents, waves rising and falling in perfect rhythmic patterns that matched the slow, deliberate beating of a heart far larger than any planet. Vegeta felt it during their afternoon spar, the way Goku's punches now carried an afterecho, a lingering resonance that made the prince's bones vibrate even after he blocked. "Kakarot," he growled between clashes, "something's riding along with your power. I can taste it on every hit." Goku tried to brush it off again, powering up to his new metallic orange form, and unleashing a casual Kamehameha that carved a clean path through a distant mountain range, the beam so pure and controlled that not a single pebble scattered outside the intended line. The display should have felt triumphant. Instead, it left an uncomfortable silence in its wake, because for the first time ever, the energy didn't feel entirely like Goku's. There was something ancient woven through it, patient and vast, watching the world through the Saiyan's eyes with a curiosity that had no urgency, only endless time. That night the dream started. Goku found himself floating in an endless void where stars were born and died in single breaths. A colossal dragon, scales gleaming like polished galaxies, regarded him with eyes that contained entire timelines. Zalama spoke without moving its jaws, the voice resonating directly inside Goku's ribcage, warm yet impossibly heavy. "You wish to protect them all, little warrior. I have answered, but every creation demands balance. Every vessel must eventually carry what it was meant to hold." Goku woke drenched in sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs so hard he could hear the blood rushing in his ears. He didn't tell anyone about the dream. Not yet. The revelation came at dawn on the fifth day, when the 7 colossal dragon balls reappeared without being summoned. They hovered silently above Capsule Corp, their light no longer warm and inviting but sharp, almost clinical, like surgical tools waiting to make the final incision. A single figure materialized between them, not a guardian this time but a projection of Zalama itself, towering yet strangely gentle, its form shifting between dragon and something almost humanoid in a way that hurt the mind to track. Its voice rolled across the gathered Z-fighters like distant thunder wrapped in silk. "The wish was granted in full," Zalama intoned, each word landing with the weight of gravity itself. "The vessel has been prepared, yet the power you celebrate is not a gift freely given. It is emerging. The Saiyan's infinite fighting spirit provides the spark, but my essence provides the eternity. In time, the one you call Goku will become the bridge, the living conduit through which I may walk these universes once more. He will protect them, yes. But the price is the gradual surrender of the self he has always been." The words hung in the air like smoke after a massive explosion. Vegeta's fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white, the prince's royal pride cracking under the realization that his rival might be losing the very thing that made their rivalry meaningful. Piccolo's antennae stood rigid, his Namekian senses confirming the truth in every syllable. Gohan stepped forward, voice steady, but eyes burning with protective fury, demanding to know if there was any way to reverse it. Zalama's projection only tilted its massive head, the movement slow and thoughtful, and offered a small, almost sorrowful smile that somehow made the air feel colder. Goku stood perfectly still in the center of it all, the new power still humming pleasantly through his veins, yet now he could feel the foreign threads weaving tighter around his core. His hands, those same hands that had thrown countless spirit bombs and saved the world more times than anyone could count, suddenly felt heavier, as if invisible weights had been attached to every finger. He looked down at them and noticed something small and heartbreaking. The calluses he had earned from years of training were smoothing out, replaced by skin that shimmered faintly with emerald undertones, like the dragon's scales were already pushing through from beneath. The sight made his stomach twist in a way no physical blow ever had. The false peak shattered completely in that moment. What everyone had celebrated as ultimate triumph was only the opening act. The real merging had barely begun, and the power that felt so liberating was already tightening its grip, slowly, patiently. The way roots of an ancient tree eventually split the strongest stone. Goku lifted his gaze to his friends, that familiar grin trying to surface but faltering halfway, replaced by a quiet resolve that carried new shadows behind it. He could still feel the hunger for battle burning bright inside him, yet now it shared space with something far older, something that viewed every fight not as joy, but as necessary steps toward a balance only a dragon god could fully comprehend. The legend had not reached its climax after all. It had only just stepped past the threshold into territory where even gods feared to tread, and the true cost of becoming Zalama's vessel was only now stepping out of the shadows, ready to claim what it had always intended to take. The air around Capsule Corp grew thick and alive, humming with a resonance that made every hair on the Z-Fighter's arms stand upright. Goku remained in the center of the gathering storm, his body now glowing with that unsettling blend of metallic orange and deep emerald, the colors swirling across his skin like oil on water. He could feel Zalama's essence moving inside him, not violently like a possession, but deliberately, the way warm honey might spread through every vein if honey had the patience of eternity. His muscles twitched involuntarily at times, fingers curling and uncurling as if testing new joints that hadn't existed yesterday. The sensation wasn't painful exactly, more like his body was being gently rewritten from the inside out, each rewrite bringing a surge of power so immense it left him breathless and grinning despite the growing dread in his chest. Vegeta refused to stand idle. He powered up to his fullest Super Saiyan Blue evolution form, the blue aura flaring wildly as he launched himself forward with a roar that split the emerald-tinted sky. "If you're slipping away, Kakarot, then fight me while you're still you." Their collision sent a shockwave that flattened the surrounding grass in a perfect circle and cracked several nearby windows. Goku met the attack head-on, his movement still carrying that familiar Saiyan wildness. Yet each block now released small bursts of draconic energy that coiled around Vegeta's limbs like living vines, slowing him just enough to turn the prince's precision into frustration. Goku felt the clash in his bones, the raw joy of combat mixing with an ancient satisfaction that viewed the fight not as rivalry, but as necessary refinement of the vessel. The merging accelerated with every exchange. Scales the color of polished jade began to push through the skin on Goku's forearms, not covering him completely, but tracing elegant patterns that glowed faintly when he channeled Kai. His hair lengthened slightly, the metallic orange strands now threaded with shimmering green that caught the light like dragon fire. When he powered up further, the aura around him no longer simply crackled with electricity. It manifested faint ethereal wings of light that beat once, twice, sending ripples of protective energy outward that instinctively shielded his friends from the backlash of their own power. The feeling in his chest was overwhelming, a vast ocean of strength rising to meet the endless Saiyan hunger, two forces braiding together into something that made every previous transformation feel like child's play. Gohan watched with wide eyes, his scholar's mind racing while his body tensed with the urge to protect his father. He saw the small details no one else caught, the way Goku's left hand occasionally hesitated mid-punch, as if an older instinct was momentarily overriding the muscle memory of decades of fighting. Piccolo stood silent, arms crossed tightly, sensing the divine and mortal energies warring, and then harmonizing in ways that defied logic. Bulma frantically typed on her devices, trying to scan the changes, but every reading came back impossible, power levels spiking beyond any measurable scale, while Goku's biological signatures began registering as partially draconic. Even Beerus hovered nearby, putting forgotten. His expression, a rare mix of irritation and reluctant awe at the birth of something that might one day rival the Omniking's casual whims. Goku suddenly threw his head back and roared, the sound carrying both the primal fury of a Super Saiyan and the resonant depth of a dragon god's call. The roar shook the planet gently, not with destructive force, but with a wave of stabilizing energy that healed minor wounds on everyone present and caused dormant seeds in the soil to sprout instantly into vibrant green shoots. His eyes flashed, one moment the warm black of the Saiyan who loved to eat and fight, the next glowing with that patient, cosmic fire that had slumbered for eons. In that instant he felt everything, the heartbeat of every living being on Earth, the distant pulse of Namek, the faint echoes from universes beyond, all of it flowing through him like blood in new veins. The power was intoxicating, making his blood sing with possibilities he had only dreamed of in his wildest training sessions. Yet beneath the surge, the emotional weight pressed harder. Goku's mind flashed to Kaikai's worried face that morning, to the way Goten had hugged him a little too tightly before heading off to play, to the stubborn pride in Vegeta's eyes that now carried a hint of genuine fear that his rival might disappear into something unrecognizable. The merging wasn't just granting power. It was slowly rewriting the simple joys that had always defined him, the pure rush of a good fight, the satisfaction of a full stomach after training, the easy laughter with friends. He could still feel those things, but they now shared space with an ancient perspective that saw battles as threads in a larger tapestry of balance, where individual lives mattered but the grand equilibrium mattered more. The unexpected observation hit him then, something no scanner or divine sense could ever capture. When Goku looked down at his own hands during a brief lull in the clashes, he noticed how the emerging scales caught the sunlight in tiny, perfect fractals, each one reflecting a different memory, a different fight, a different smile from the people he loved. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, those small reflections showing him that every punch he had ever thrown, every loss he had endured, was now fuel for something far greater than himself. His chest tightened with a feeling that existed long before he became a hero, the simple fear of a man who didn't want to lose the parts of himself that made him Goku. The merging reached a fevered crescendo as Goku floated higher, his body now half covered in those elegant jade patterns, his aura expanding into a colossal silhouette of a dragon overlaid with the fierce outline of a Super Saiyan. The power level no longer felt measurable. It felt eternal. The Z-Fighters could only watch as their friend, their rival, their family, stood on the precipice of becoming the dragon god's true vessel, the birth finally taking hold in a way that made the earlier celebrations seem like distant echoes. And still the process continued, deeper and more intimate, as Saiyan spirit and dragon god essence wove tighter, promising a guardian unlike any the multiverse had ever witnessed, while quietly asking whether the man inside would survive the transformation intact. The final stage of the merging hit like a supernova contained within a single mortal frame. Goku's body lifted off the ground without any conscious effort, suspended in a pillar of swirling emerald and metallic orange light that stretched from the cracked earth all the way into the upper atmosphere. The jade scales now covered most of his torso and limbs in intricate living patterns that pulsed in time with his heartbeat, each scale reflecting fragments of every universe he had ever touched. His hair flowed longer and wilder, the strands glowing with inner fire while faint draconic horns curved gracefully from his temples, not monstrous but regal, like the crown of a god who had earned his throne through endless battles. The power no longer surged in bursts. It simply existed, steady and infinite, making the air itself feel heavier, more alive, as if reality was bending politely to accommodate the birth of something new. He opened his eyes, and the world changed. One moment they were the familiar warm black of the Saiyan, who loved nothing more than a good fight and a bigger meal. The next they held the patient, star-filled gaze of Zalama, ancient wisdom layered over that unbreakable fighting spirit. Goku felt both at once, the wild joy of throwing himself into battle mixing seamlessly with the vast, calm certainty that every conflict served a greater balance. His voice, when he spoke, carried both tones braided together, deep and resonant yet still carrying that familiar Goku warmth. This is what it feels like to be able to protect everything. I won't let anyone down, not ever again. The first true test came almost immediately, as if the multiverse itself wanted to welcome its new dragon god. Portals ripped open across the sky, not the controlled ones from before but chaotic tears spilling forth threats from fractured timelines, monstrous entities that had escaped their own destroyed realities, drawn like moths to the sudden blaze of godlike power. Goku didn't hesitate. He raised one hand, palm open, and the merged energy responded instantly. A wave of protective light erupted outward, not destructive like a Hakai blast but restorative, wrapping around the invading creatures and gently pulling them back through the rifts while sealing the wounds in space with threads of emerald energy. The Z-Fighters watched in stunned silence as threats that would have required the entire team to handle dissolved harmlessly, redirected with a precision and mercy that felt both Saiyan and divine. Vegeta charged forward one last time, not in anger but in a final desperate bid to reach the friend he refused to lose completely. Their fists met in a collision that lit up the entire horizon, the impact creating a momentary sphere of perfect silence where time seemed to pause. In that frozen heartbeat, Goku looked at Vegeta with eyes that held centuries of shared rivalry, and he smiled, the same crooked, competitive grin that had always pushed the prince to new heights. "You're still the best rival I could ever ask for, Vegeta. Let's keep getting stronger together." The words landed heavier than any punch, carrying the weight of a promise from both the Saiyan and the dragon god now living inside him. Vegeta pulled back, chest heaving, eyes narrowed but glistening with something he would never admit was pride mixed with loss. The new era unfolded in breathtaking scope. Goku, now fully Zalama's vessel, moved across the planet in moments, his presence alone calming natural disasters and strengthening the barriers between universes. He restored barren lands with a thought, causing forests to bloom overnight and oceans to teem with life that had long been fatting. Yet he never lost the core of who he was. When Goten and Trunks begged for a spar, he obliged, holding back just enough to let the boys feel the thrill of the fight while teaching them new ways to channel energy that blended mortal technique with draconic grace. Kai watched from the porch, her hands twisting in her apron, heart aching at the changes in her husband's posture, the way he now carried himself with an eternal patience that made their simple family dinners feel both precious and fragile. But the true depth of the transformation revealed itself in the quiet moments between the grand displays of power. Goku would sometimes pause mid-sentence, eyes distant as Zalama's ancient memories surfaced, showing him the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the delicate balance that required occasional sacrifice for the sake of all. Those memories brought a heaviness to his chest, a sorrow that the old Goku had rarely carried, yet it only made his resolve stronger. He felt the pull to wander now, to visit distant worlds and ensure the grand equilibrium held, even as the part of him that loved Earth and his friends tugged him back with fierce loyalty. The unexpected observation came as he hovered above the lookout one final time, the wind tugging at his longer hair while the merged aura cast soft green-gold reflections on the tiles below. In that high, lonely place he noticed how his shadow had changed. It no longer stretched like a simple Saiyan warrior. Instead it coiled with faint draconic elegance, the outline of wings and tail faintly visible even when the light hit from every angle. The sight made something deep in his gut twist, a small, very human ache for the days when his shadow was just that of a guy who wanted to eat, train, and protect his family without the weight of eternity pressing on his shoulders. That tiny detail, invisible to everyone else but burning bright in his mind, reminded him that no matter how grand the legend became, some parts of the man inside would always feel the cost. As the merged dragon god fully awakened, the multiverse trembled with new possibility. Threats that once required alliances of gods now hesitated at the mere rumor of his approach. New Dragon Balls began to form across planets, not for granting selfish wishes, but for maintaining the balance Goku now embodied. The Z-Fighters stood together, watching their friend become something greater and somehow still undeniably Goku, the birth complete yet forever evolving. And then came the twist no one could have predicted. In the final moment of ascension, as Goku's form stabilized into its eternal dragon god state, a single, quiet laugh echoed from deep within his chest, not his own familiar chuckle but something older, wiser, and strangely playful. Zalama's voice blended perfectly with Goku. As the dragon god spoke through the vessel, "You wished for the power to protect them all, little Saiyan, but I never said I would be the only one sharing this body." The eyes flashed once more, and for a split second the group saw not just Goku or Zalama, but an entirely new presence flickering behind them, a third essence that had been hiding in the wish all along, waiting for the perfect vessel to awaken something even the dragon god had not anticipated. The legend had not simply birthed a dragon god. It had created something far more unpredictable, a being where Saiyan spirit, ancient dragon, and one final hidden force now danced together in eternal balance. The new era had begun, but its true shape was only just revealing itself, leaving every universe, every fighter, and every friend wondering what impossible battles and impossible joys awaited next. What a wild ride that was! The birth of the dragon god delivered more than anyone bargained for, and that final twist changes everything we thought we knew about Goku's limits. If you want another what if crossover that pushes the boundaries even further, drop your next title below and I'll craft something just as epic. Thanks for watching this legend unfold.